my voice has been in everything I've done except for Hellboy 1 and The Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four movie. Both of those instances were a little bit different from each other. One, in Hellboy 1, when I was cast as Abe Sapien.
Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're interviewing actor, contortionist, and mime artist Doug Jones. Doug, can you hear me?
I can indeed. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I got to tell you, when I heard I was getting this interview, I was over the moon about it because I have loved your work for so many years.
Oh my gosh! Well, thank you for that. I don't deserve you, Jeff.
What I love most about you is somehow they coach you, they cover you in all this stuff sometimes. They bury you in costumes, and I can still feel what you're trying to do. I can't even imagine how hard that is.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a career that I didn't know I was going to have, honestly. When I set out to Hollywood back in 1985, I thought I was going to be a sitcom star. I wanted to be like all I wanted to do was be a goofy next door neighbor that came in, asked for a cup of sugar, did an armpit fart, said something funny, and left. And little did I know that being a tall, skinny, 6'3", 135-pound a guy with a mime background, that would make me very, very suitable for the monster world. So creature effects makeup artists, started doing TV commercials, and because of the physical tomfoolery that comes with being a mime and a contortionist, being able to put your legs behind your head. I'm a kind of a one-trick pony, but I don't have a circus act. But that comes in. I come in the room with all that kind of like, oh, he moves well and he's tall and skinny. So the creature effects people were just like, they took to me right away. And my name got into a lot of Rolodexes around the Los Angeles area in all the creature shops. Now, once they started running molds and life casts of me, and after doing a couple commercials, I kind of became the referred go-to tall, skinny guy. Never saw that coming.
When I did a deep dive into your past and everything else like that, it even gets even more interesting because I didn't realize, those classic McDonald's commercials, Mac Tonight, that was you in the Moonhead. That is crazy.
Right. It was one of my first gigs. Yeah. And I didn't, again, that commercial campaign turned into a 27 commercial campaign over a 3-year period. And it kind of marked me as the guy who moves well, wears a lot of crud on his head and body, and doesn't complain about it. And so that got me a reputation around the creature effects folks. God bless them for propelling me forward into a career I didn't know I was going to have.
Now, the weird thing about this is I'm also an attorney. I do stand-up, and I didn't realize those commercials basically did get taken off because they weren't popular. They got taken off because of a lawsuit from the family of the singer from Mac the Knife. That is the weirdest way to lose a gig.
Isn't it, though? Yeah, Bobby Darin's family, because I guess their claim was that the singer that because they were rewritten lyrics for McDonald's. But the singer that then redid those new lyrics kind of had a Bobby Darin sound about him. Maybe that's what they were after. I really don't know. I wasn't a part of the lawsuit.
From what I know, I don't know a lot about commercials, but I know when you get nationwide commercials, it's good money. It pays the bills really well. And suddenly you're like going, okay, I guess that gravy train ends.
Well, I bought my first house with McDonald's money. Yes, thank heaven for them. But then like I said, then. Because of that reputation from that commercial campaign, everybody knew it and saw it back in the late 80s, early 90s. So that was like, oh, you're the guy that did that. Oh, then that was kind of a calling card for other monster gigs that would come after that.
What I love about your career is everything you do, I can go, okay, that was Star Trek. That was Hellboy. You start rattling all this stuff up. And now you're doing Nosferatu, a symphony of horror. And they're doing something that I've never seen done before with the backgrounds.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I'm a lover of classic old, monster movies and horror films, and the 1922 Nosferatu movie, silent film with Max Schreck starring as the title character of Count Orlok, Nosferatu. His performance was so spooky and so quiet, I've always wanted to play a classic vampire and not Dracula. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not sexy enough to be Dracula, and I'm not pretty enough to be, one of the sparkly ones from the high school kids. So I thought, you know what, that scraggly old wrinkly guy with the pointy ears and the buck teeth, that's more me. So I always wanted to do reprise that role somehow. And so when my director, David Lee Fisher, we had done this same process on a movie called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It was a 1919 silent film that we made into a talkie with sound, new actors, and filmed on green screen and combined with the old movie. So we did the same process now on Nosferatu. David Lee Fisher did his technical wizardry again and combined us with the old original silent film. So we did have some sets built and a lot of props and furniture and foreground things, but there was a green screen element to every scene of the movie. It might have been an open window, an open door, or it might have been outdoors with a complete nothing but green screen, all filled in with original movie footage that he digitally remastered. So we were done in black and white, and it is very much a scene-for-scene homage to the original film, but with dialogue and sound that kind of fleshes out what the story was back then.
I mean, I can't even imagine what's that. I mean, you've dealt with green screen the majority of your career. I can't imagine this one going, hey, listen, we have no backgrounds. It's all going to be pulled from the old movie. I mean, how accurate do you have to be where you're standing, where everything's happening?
Oh, it's very precise, yes, because what he would do on set, he would have a big, hit a large giant TV screen with the projected scene we were going to be playing in from the original movie. He would pull it up to a still, and we'd be, okay, that's your mark there. So we had very specific marks on the floor of a green area, staircases, ramps, all kinds of things that would match what we were going to be laid into. So it was a technical, and you had to use your imagination. When you're on a green set, you have to, okay, that's where the staircase is, that's where the banister is, that's where the wall is. I have to walk around. That's where so it's very, very precise.
And that premieres on Apple TV this month, right?
Yes, Apple TV this Friday, October 18th, and there's also on Amazon Prime already.
Your career has been amazing because I love, you were fantastic in Hellboy, and, suddenly you're in this Oscar-nominated movie. I mean, was that like bizarre to you going, oh my God, this is going to get an Oscar?
Yes, and that's the Oscar buzz has happened in two movies, both directed by Guillermo del Toro, Pan's Labyrinth and The Shape of Water. Both were 11 years apart from each other. But you never think when you're in a career where you're wearing rubber monster suits and you're sweating and you're going, ah, you never assume that that's going to be an Oscar-nominated film. But Pan's Labyrinth had 6 Oscar nominations and 3 wins, including Best Makeup for my makeup artist. And then Shape of Water had 13 Oscar nominations, and it won 4 of them, including Best Director for Guillermo del Toro and Best Picture. So I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be standing up on the stage at the Academy Awards with the whole team of people accepting Best Picture for a movie with a monster on the cover, and I happened to be that monster. Didn't see that coming.
Then the next week you're back in whatever they're putting you in.
Exactly. Well, at the time, I was working on Star Trek Discovery at the time, so I had to go back to the next season of Star Trek as an alien on that show. Right.
Now, I'm also benefited the last 18 years. I've written comic books and I've done conventions where you've been there, and I'm blown away at how fans are they love what you do so much that, they wait, hours and hours in line for your autograph. I mean, how humbling is that? It's very humbling and very sweet. And I do love the convention circuit. Many actors do it begrudgingly. I love it. I love making that one-on-one contact with the people who have been watching me all these 38 years I've been acting. And in fact, you're in Orlando, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think with Spooky Empire was a big convention that had to be postponed for your hurricane, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's back on for November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and I'm rescheduled to be there as well. So I'll be there for enjoying that line of people. When there's a line of people standing to meet you at your table, and one after another, they want to tell you how much they love you and how much something that you were in inspired them, helped them through a rough time in their life, helped them through the death of a loved one, helped them through the hospital recovery, whatever. I hear so many personal stories about how something I was in artistically affected their real life, and that's the best pat on the back I can possibly get.
I really appreciate that because I learned earlier on in my career, before I started writing comic books and before I started being on the other side of the table, how that line, never meet your heroes, sometimes that could be actually true. And
Right.
I went out of my way to never be that guy. And, you see people who don't seem happy at the conventions and they're, it's a paycheck and everything, but what does it do for you to go, I got to get up. I got to, when you're feeling down, you've been doing this for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, what do you do to get yourself up?
Oh, for some reason, I don't get down. Conventions days are long and tiring, yes, but every person has a new sense of energy to bring to me, whether it's, they're not standing in line for an hour to tell you they hate you. So when they get to me, our interaction is fresh and new for them. So I keep myself fresh and new for them if I can.
I really appreciate that because for me, I was at San Diego Comic-Con a couple of months ago, and, those days are 10 hours and you're just going, get up, jump around, do what you can do, but it is such an important thing to give back to the people who really are caring enough to want to meet you and talk to you.
Right, exactly. If they're making the effort to and a lot of people have traveled from long and far, other towns away and other states away. So they've made a big effort to travel, to hotel themselves, to have dinners out, to get admission tickets to a big event, and then to stand in line, and then everything costs. It's a very expensive trip for them to go to these conventions. So I really do appreciate that, and I never want to be like a gruff, like, yeah, thanks. And again, next, that's the last thing I want to give them.
Ooh, nightmare scenario for a lot of fans. So I'm glad there are guys out there like you. I did want to talk about a tough topic because I think it, as an actor, as a performer, when you do a part and you voice it, and then later on they replace your voice with a well-known celebrity or they do something like that. How do they even tell you they're doing that, or do they even tell you?
Right. This has happened twice in my career, and out of 38 years, that's not very much. But it was in 2 rather focal projects that kind of where people assumed that I must be dubbed over a lot. Honestly, my voice has been in everything I've done except for Hellboy 1 and The Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four movie. Both of those instances were a little bit different from each other. One, in Hellboy 1, when I was cast as Abe Sapien, I came into it with the studio having already discussed with director Guillermo del Toro, that the role of Abe Sapien is completely obliterated. No one's going to be recognizable in that makeup. So why don't we get someone who is physically adept to play the role visually, and then get like a celebrity voiceover so we can attach a bigger name to that character? So that's why I walked into that situation already in place, and I begged them to not do that. So I was kind of like, well, if we get the voice we need from you, we'll put you in the pool of names we're considering. Well, I was kind of a nobody back then. I did not have a name recognition in public, and they were considering Kevin Spacey, Steve Buscemi, and then ultimately it was David Hyde Pierce from Frasier. So that was a lot to compete against. But Guillermo del Toro, after the film was done, and after I went in and did ADR voice looping to clean up my own dialogue, everybody loved what I was doing. But Guillermo called me a couple of weeks later and said, "Listen, the studio did decide to go ahead with that original plan, and it's going to be David Hyde Pierce voicing over you." It did hit me in my gut. It really did, because no actor wants to see part of their performance replaced by someone else, and so that didn't feel good. But I love David Hyde Pierce, so it's like I was having mixed emotions. So, but he did tell me that if we get to make a Hellboy 2, I will include your voice, and you'll play the entire. It'll all be you. And he lived up to that promise. Hellboy 2 is all me, and the animated films that came in between those 2 movies, Hellboy Sword of Storms and Hellboy Blood and Iron, also my voice. And the video game, Hellboy Science of Evil, my voice. So he made very good on that promise. And but that was like I said, I kind of walked into it. Now, the Silver Surfer was a different situation. I did not know that I was going to be voiced over by Lawrence Fishburne in the end. So that one was a bit more painful, and I did not get the phone call with a heads up ahead of time. I had to read it in the Hollywood Reporter like everybody else, and that didn't feel good. But so it did inspire something, though. My contracts now, whenever I do a movie, include a clause that says I will not be voiced over by anybody else in English.
Yeah, because I know you did one of them. You actually worked the Spanish dialogue to be able to do it. And they were like, and I know it's very difficult in different countries because they have specific people who do people's voices. So it was very interesting reading that.
Yeah, but Pan's Labyrinth, yes, I did do in Spanish, and I did a French movie, Gainsbourg, A Heroic Life, in French. And both of those instances, I was voiced over in the end, but I learned the dialogue so that they would have a proper lip sync. The last thing you want to do is just give them timing with bar, 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 and they have to voice over that later. So I did set the tone and the timing of the dialogue. That was mine. So a voice over artist could come in and give it the right accent and the right inflection that I couldn't hear with my American ears, and that's fine. In another language, it's fine. It's just that's why my clause in my contract now say in English. I will be doing the voice.
Now, I always hear certain actors complain because right now, Penguin's on, and you have, it's a fantastic. The makeup's fantastic, the acting's fantastic. I think we're starting to respect people more who are able to bring out characters when they are covered and things. So when you see somebody perform like that, you're going, "Oh, he's got it easy. He just has a fat suit."
Monsters could be movie stars back in the day, back in the classic, Universal Monsters days. You had your Boris Karloff and your Lon Chaney and your Bela Lugosi. Those were known names that were the famous people. We kind of lost. Monsters then became sort of like the growly thing that ran down a hallway after some young teenager in underwear. We kind of lost the classic movie star version of the monster. And directors like Guillermo del Toro brought that movie star monster back, where he's an integral part of the story as a hero, even at times, and depending on the story, and where the monster can be sympathetic, and where the monster can have even like a hint of a love story. And we saw that in The Shape of Water, where I actually got to keep the girl in the end, and we lived happily ever after, which it doesn't happen in monster movies. So that's been a joy to see a resurgence of the classic movie monster with some respect. Yeah.
We have about 2 minutes left, but when you go to a college and you leave and you're building your name, I assume you've been back to Ball State and showed up and said, they asked you to come and talk. I mean, what is that like?
Yeah, that is exactly what I hoped for when I was leaving Ball State University in 1982 when I got my bachelor's degree. I'd been to talks and shows and things where people were coming in from the showbiz to do a concert or a presentation or something. I thought, gosh, one day I want that to be me. I'd love to come back here, as local boy done good. And so I have been back to Ball State. And I've been back to my high school, Bishop Chatard High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I've been back on, local media in the Indianapolis area. And I love that. That's one of my favorite things to do is to go home to my high school reunions. I just went to my 45-year reunion last year. And I attended the football game. The homecoming football game was the same weekend. And one by one, people from the stands came over to get selfies with me. It was just a sweet, full circle kind of thing. But that's not the reason I wanted to be an actor. It wasn't like fame and fortune. I'll show them one day. That was not it at all. It was just like I really want to be I'm drawn to the art of acting, but a nice payoff and a nice repercussion of that is the local folks recognizing it. That's really, really very sweet.
Well, that's amazing, and I can't tell you how great it is to talk to you. And I hadn't planned to go to Spooky, but I might just stop by just to say hello. So it'll be good, possibly put it. So you have a good time, and I can't tell you how great this interview has been for me.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for your time and your care with me. Very sweet of you.